All my cheetah sisters, stand up. Not playing. But if you're not familiar with that clip, that is from the iconic movie, The Cheetah Girls. And I actually wanted to reference my beloved childhood movie because when I was younger, you could not convince me that when I grew up, I was not going to be the fifth member of the Cheetah Girls. But nevertheless, I want to analyze their dynamic, but in particular, I actually want to make Galleria the muse for this analysis today. And I want to ask, was Galleria really the problematic one in the group? So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and hop right into this analysis. So when we assess Galleria's role in the Cheetah Girls, she was very type A. She was the goal setter, the planner, definitely the person who took initiative as far as, putting the group out there, advocating for the group. And the beautiful thing about it is this. Obviously, the person with the type A personality, the planner, or some may even argue the quote unquote mom friend, they have their benefits when it comes to providing us with a sense of direction and accomplishing certain goals, making those goals tangible. But the downside of it is this. When you're around people who don't necessarily value those characteristics and traits, it can be viewed as off-putting. Now, I also want to be fair that there were absolutely moments where Galleria was a little bit pushy. She was a little bit overbearing. And there are moments where people would argue that she did take away the group's sense of autonomy and individuality in respects to all the members. So making sure that everyone's voice is heard before making a decision. Depicted in that clip there, you could see that Galleria definitely had moments where she played a huge role in people perceiving her as off-putting, maybe even braggadocious and arrogant. However, Chanel made a great point, at least before she was influenced by the other members of the group, that the role that Galleria played, even though some people may have viewed it as abrasive and as assertive, it was essential as far as getting the group's name out there and getting certain initiatives and offers up and running. Now, the beautiful thing about friendships and relationships is they teach us how to sharpen the tools in our toolbox in real time, especially when we talk about interpersonal skills, how we may come off, how other people perceive us, and, just working on our delivery and communication, all of those great things. However, I think the reason why Galleria had a hard time breaking through in the group, or at least people understanding her intentions without perceiving it as her being abrasive or complaining, is the group was kind of ungrateful. And I'm gonna explain this a little bit further in the analysis. They were ungrateful and they weren't able to perceive the amount of effort and sacrifice that Galleria was putting in order for the Cheetah Girls to be successful.
Well, at least someone's rehearsing.
It clearly could have been better on Galleria's part. However, I think that Galleria found herself facing a lot of friction in that friendship or in that friend group because she didn't understand the role that she played in it. And sometimes we have to face the music, no pun intended, but our intentions and our purpose for a particular environment, for a setting, or for a group may not necessarily be cohesive with the other people in that environment. And we could save ourselves a lot of the pain, a lot of the disappointment and misfortune when we learn how to redirect our efforts and our attention to spaces that will actually pour into us. But to further explain this dynamic, I'm actually going to read from a few sections in this book. And the first section that I want to read, it states, "A parasite is a liability because they seek out all that you can do for them with no intent of reciprocating." And there's another section in the book, and it's actually an envious archetype, and it's titled The Leech. And it explains that an envious person who is a leech will obsess over what you have to the point they aim to possess it as well. This is much more severe than simply being inspired by someone or aspiration. The leech aims to ride off of your coattails because they secretly despise that it's you and not them. This predator leeches off of their prey's success and assets to build themselves up and deliberately take their target's place. This is done by depleting the target's resources subtly. In the context of relationships and friendships, when we speak on depleting resources, it's not limited to the tangible. A lot of the time when we are investing our eggs in the wrong basket, we will realize that we are being emotionally and mentally depleted in some way. And even also, when we talk about being depleted of these valuable resources, we'll realize that it takes a toll on our self-esteem and our self-worth. And I think that that was depicted with Galleria, where after a point she kind of threw in the towel. And I think that moments where the group members started to state, like, you're being controlling and, you never give us a moment to really think and talk things over, it started to play on her a little bit, where she started to wonder, well, maybe I am being a little bit too abrasive. Maybe I am doing too much. And in the second movie, we saw that, where she eventually was just like, hey, I'm done. I'm just going to go ahead and go back home. You guys got this.
I'm going home.
You what?
Yeah. Chanel has found a friend in Marisol.
Oh.
She has. They both speak Spanish.
Now, as we could see, Galleria eventually read the room, for lack of better words, and she pivoted. She realized that, I think my time has ran its course here, and I'm going to go ahead and go back home. Now, the downside of it is this. Even though it's a beautiful thing that she pivoted, it's important that we learn how to invest in the right friendships and the right connections to begin with. Because Galleria had valuable assets and valuable characteristics that could have benefited another group that understood the role that she was playing. Because the fact of the matter is this, the other girls were not willing to do a lot of the executive decision making that Galleria was willing to do. Once the girls decided that they wanted to branch their friendship out into a business endeavor, it required structure, and Galleria provided that structure. So if you choose to let the structure go, then you cannot be shocked when things hit the fan. The reason why I wanted to make Galleria the muse is because I think for the longest, and I know just for me personally, I interpreted it as, well, Galleria, girl, just calm down, like just have fun, be in the moment. But now that I'm older and I'm able to see the role that she played from a different lens, I'm realizing how important it is to set boundaries with people who are operating from a parasitic nature, even if they don't necessarily realize it. So you're reaping the benefits of the hard work and sacrifice that I'm putting in, and I'm oftentimes taking the hit. I'm being viewed as the bad guy. I'm being viewed as the one who's super assertive and abrasive, but it's for the greater good. And I want to hopefully send a word of encouragement, and hopefully that's what this analysis does for people who realize that they play this role in their friend group and they feel like that they're not necessarily seeing returns on their investment, and instead they're getting all of these negative labels. Once people realize the value that you bring to the table, you have to understand that the ball is in your court, and you're not obligated to keep putting yourself in a position of the friendship doormat or the occupational doormat, the relationship doormat, because you're so accustomed to saving the day and fixing the issue, because that's the role that you've always played. When people don't value what you bring to the table, they don't value the fact that you're always fixing problems and you're always coming in to save the day. Once you back off and you give them that space, and then they realize that they lost their problem solver and they tried to chase you down and see what you can do to fix the problem, understand that you can exercise that autonomy. People at one point viewed your ability to fix problems and provide solutions as being abrasive and problematic. Then you have the choice and you have the right to step down from that role for the sake of your own emotional and mental well-being. So in sum, there are situations where our value is only perceived in our absence. Once the damage is done, you're not necessarily obligated to reconcile. Babe, so that's all that I have for this video with our muse Galleria from the Cheetah Girls, and us assessing whether or not Galleria was really problematic, or was the friction she experienced in the Cheetah Girls a byproduct of her friends not necessarily appreciating all that she sacrificed for the group. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And of course, I want to hear you all's comments, perspectives, and opinions in the comment section below. And I look forward to speaking to you guys in the next one. Take care, babes.